What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Algebra 1 with Mr. Peters. In today's video, we're doing some EOC practice. So we're going to look at 5 problems, and I'm going to break down the thought process you need to have to solve correctly. Looking at problem number 1, guys, there's 2 things that we need to understand before we try to solve. One, they're not asking us to solve this problem. They're asking us to show that x squared plus 10x is equal to 15. And all they given us was this graph or this picture with the information. So for us to properly solve, guys, we have to remember we're talking about area, which is length times width, which they gave us. We have the length, we have the width. So if we rearrange our box, right? So we draw a box. I have x plus 5 on top, and I have x plus 5 on the side. We're going to multiply those two together, right? Meaning we are going to FOIL. So we have x plus 5 times x plus 5. That is the same thing as x plus 5 squared. This is all the same. So once we do this now, we should get x squared plus 5x plus 5x, right? Let's solve for some more, plus 25 is equal to, and guys, remember, we're trying to figure out the area. They told us it's 40 centimeters squared. So this is what this is equal to. Now we combine our like terms. X squared plus 10x plus 25 is equal to 40. And remember, we're trying to prove that we could get to x squared plus 10x is equal to 15. So what we're going to do is subtract to simplify. And then we're going to get a final answer of x squared plus 10x is equal to 15. So when we have these type of problems, just make sure you understand exactly what they're trying to ask us. Going on to problem number 2, now we are talking about domain, and yes, you're definitely going to see this on the EOC. But let's just go through the answer choices, right? So it says that all real numbers greater than -1. They're asking us for the domain. And we know that is wrong because we're talking about what x values are included, or what x values can we find on the graph, on the line. So when it says all real numbers greater than -1, if you look at our screen, there's an x value when x is -9, an x value when x is -7. We know that's not true. All real numbers greater than 2. We just said that we have numbers, we have negative numbers, so that has to be false. All real numbers less than 10. Well, guys, if we look at the right side of this, remember that those arrows let us know that that line is going to continue on, meaning it's going to pass 10, go to 11, 12, 1,000, so on. So that is also wrong. Our correct answer should be all real numbers. As we follow that graph, it's going to stretch further across that x-axis as the graph goes on. Now, let's just bring it back and say they were talking about the range. Now, if we were talking about the range, guys, our answer would be A. Because when we look at the lowest point on the graph for y, there is no y that is going to be less than -1. So please just understand the difference between domain and range, because you're definitely going to see it, and it can be challenging if you don't know what it's asking. In our next problem, guys, we're now switching over to range, and this is important because we need to understand what the endpoints of graphs mean. And it's going to be the similar thing to inequalities. What does Mr. Peters mean? Open circle, the answer is not included, right? If it's a closed circle, that means the answer is included. So when we look at this and it asks us for the range, both of those graphs are closed. I mean, the circle points are closed, so that means we have to have a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to sign. So from the jump, we could definitely eliminate answer choice A and answer choice C. Now, the biggest part of this problem is just understanding, are we looking from left to right or top to bottom? When we're working with range, guys, we're talking about how far up and how far down does this graph stretch. So when I look at the highest point, I know that highest point is somewhere between 8 and 9, and the lowest point is going to be 6. And yes, they're going to put it in order from least to greatest. So when I look at my answer choices now, the answer choice has to be D, right? Because we know that this graph is not going to be, it's not going to go under -6 for the y value, and it's not going to get higher than 9.5. Now, the reason you can possibly get B, right? B is not the right answer. But the way you could get this is if you think that we're talking about the x-axis, right? You switch domain and range, it is going from -7 to 8. So this is why it's important for us to understand the difference. Now we're moving on to the next problem, guys, and we really hope that you find this quick review helpful. We're talking about transformations of graphs. And what you see me writing on the screen right now is the parent graph, right? So this is f of x is equal to x squared. And what they're asking us is, hey, what equation, what transformation did we use to get from a vertex of 0, 0 to our new vertex? And guys, this is why it's important for us to understand transformations. So before we go into that, let's talk about the equation. We have f of x is equal to a times x minus h, we close the parentheses, squared plus k. So we know that hk is going to be the vertex, right? So when we look at this here, we're saying that, hey, the number inside the parentheses and the number outside, when I put those together inside a coordinate pair, that's my vertex. So we need a vertex that is, let's see what this point is. Our vertex is -1, -8, right? So when we understand where the new vertex is now, we could definitely go back, eliminate answer choice C, answer choice D. Why? Because the Y value is incorrect. Now we go back up and we're talking about the H value, right? Is it going to be A or B? So please understand, whatever is inside the parentheses, you have to set it equal to 0. So in A, our shift would actually be 1 to the right. And when we look at answer choice B, let's switch colors, right? We have x plus 1. We set that equal to 0. We know our x is going to be equal to -1. And we know for the vertex, we need a -1. So the actual answer choice would be B. And another simple way to do it, guys, is just understanding your transformation. We move 1 to the left and down 8. So that's another way that we could also do this question very quickly. Moving on to the last problem of the day, guys. Like I said, thank you so much for joining us today. Really hope you like this video. We're dealing with word problems, and this can be an easy or challenging word problem, just depending on how fast you move through it. So what students will do, they'll come through, they'll read, and then they're going to focus on 3,620 cheesecakes, and they're going to focus on 2003. Why is Mr. Peters talking about that? Because what students are going to do, they're going to come in, they're going to say, okay, 3,620 cheesecakes divided by 3. And that's going to give you 1,206.666. Let's just say we rounded that up to 1,207. And then we're going to say, okay, we know y is equal to the 800 she does per year. We don't know how many years. And then we're going to add the 1207. This is absolutely wrong. The reason why is because we skipped a important step, and I got you right now. So when we look at this problem, guys, let's just start. It's telling us that the Cheesecake Company increased 800 per year. So in 2003, Jenna had sold 3,620 cheesecakes, but there was something we forgot to do. So what we had to do was take 800, right? We know between 2003 and 2000 it's 3 years. So we multiply that by 3 for the 800 she has every year, or she increases every year. So year 3, she has 2,400 cheesecakes, right? That's standard. Now what we're trying to figure out is how much does she actually or how much more does she make in addition to the 800 per year? So for us to figure that out now, we're going to subtract the total amount of cheesecakes, 3,620 after 3 years, and we're now going to take out the standard 800 she has every year, right? Because every year she increases by 800. So we subtract, and then we're going to get, let's see, what do we get after we subtract this real quick? We're going to get 1,220. Now that we have that information, we can create our equation. And our equation, let's switch colors, go back to pink, is going to be y is equal to 800x plus 1,220. So now that we got the equation, the next question is easy. What was the number of cheesecakes sold in 2015? So now that we know the year, right? 2015 minus 2000s, that's 15 years. So that's what we substitute for x. Y is equal to 800 times the 15 years, and the amount of years, plus the 1220, the additional cheesecake she makes after the 800. So now once we do this to solve the problem, we are going to get y is equal to, and let's do this quick math real quick, definitely using the calculator, guys, 100, oh, I'm sorry, not 100, 12,000 plus 1,220, and when we finalize our answer, we are going to get 13,220 cheesecakes. So really hope this video was helpful for you guys and you found it helpful. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave comments for future videos you guys would like to see on our channel. Or if you guys had questions on today's video, thank you guys so much for joining Algebra 1 with Mr. Peters.